Yo guys, welcome back to another trade recap. Okay, so I'm going to be breaking down this trade I took today on May 18th. On Monday it is today. This was a nice little 1 to 2 on the euro versus dollar, which did pass me a phase 1. Here is a certificate to prove it with funding pips. Who gives a fuck about a phase 1 though? And it did actually make me $750 on the day on my funding account, which is now ready for a payout. We're up 1,250 on the funded account. On a 50k. So for me, that is enough to take, right? Remember, when you're trading these prop firms, especially dodgy ones, which I'm kind of with, no, but when you're trading with kind of these funded accounts, you want to kind of not shoot for the stars. You want to be getting your 1 to 2, maybe 1 to 3% payouts. And they stack up, they compound. This will be my 5th payout in a month with these guys. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're going for these payouts. Don't shoot for the stars. Okay, get your payouts, get consistent payouts, and it compounds, trust me. Like I said, my 5th payout in a month, right? So anyway, without that, let's get into this fucking trade, right? So I have recorded this video 3 times, and my audio just wasn't working, and I think in the last trade breakdown video the audio was fucking ass. And I think it was my webcam mic, so I have sorted it out for this one. So coming into the bias of the day, what are we fucking looking at? So last week, to give it a nice quick high time frame bias on what I'm thinking for this year, really, what I'm thinking just in terms. So we have had this reaction from this supply zone, right, on the monthly time frame. So we have come into the extreme supply zone, and we are looking now to start distributing down. So for context wise, bearish for me makes most sense. I actually much prefer this picture. I mean, not picture, this color. So yeah, so coming off the monthly supreme extreme supply zone, I'm leaning more bearish. Okay, we've had that accumulation, we've had that manipulation, we're now getting that monthly distribution. And so for the rest of this year, I could see potentially at least to this fair value gap, price just fucking trickle down. And that will take obviously a while, but I think that's what we're looking at. So coming on the monthly, the weekly time frame, like I said, we've had that weekly accumulation, which, you know, I traded. I traded all of this, and I've still not traded a trending market in a fucking while. Like the last time and back here, I wasn't really trading the euro versus dollar, so I've actually not traded a trending market on the euro versus dollar on EU, ever really. So yeah, it'll be nice to get some trending markets. It'll be nice to get some IRL to ERL plays on the weekly, because that is when just watch anyway. But I think we're gonna get that. I think we're starting to get that, right? Because we've had this weekly distribution here. We've come into the IRL. We did inverse the fair value gap, right, with this weekly open. But again, we are in this weekly supply zone, again, causing this break structure. And we've had that accumulation. We've had that rejection. Now we're looking for the distribution, right? We've had this beautiful weekly rejection. We've created, if FX Alex fucking was here, he'd be like, we've created the head and shoulders, guys. We're retesting the neckline soon. But anyway, so yeah, that's what we're kind of looking at. So coming on to the daily time frame. Now, last week we printed in an SMT with GU at these highs. This is really important because GU has shifted, right? Because of this SMT that we have over here, GU is the one that induced this high, right? Now, because we've induced the high in GU, we've created a new high, and then we've broken the low, creating this change of character, or this break of structure, right? Because EU hasn't taken the high, it does not mean it has not had a change in character or it's not broken structure. It has. It genuinely has, because technically EU's high should be up here, right? It should look like this, and then we've had that break. But EU didn't have to take this high because GU took it. So with this break of structure, with this low, being put in place, even though yes, we're technically in this massive bullish swing, to me, we are now bearish on the daily time frame, and I'm using this as my new swing. Okay, so for context reasons, it's really important. And again, reacting off that weekly supply zone, you can even see if we really refine it down to the daily extreme. You could say, yeah, I love it like that. Your daily extreme, we've fully mitigated this supply zone, so it's served its purpose, right? And you can see that happening now. So this looks beautiful. This looks really good. So coming into the week, I'm seeing this and following weekly profiles, okay, and what I'm expecting on a Monday on a bearish week. Today was beautiful. It was the first time in a while I've seen price action this fucking beautiful, this clean. And I'm not gonna get my hopes up because I know what fucking this PA's like with this war in Iran and shit like that. It is fucking ass. But yeah, it's beautiful. So this is where the source is, right? So just listen. Listen up. So if we're thinking about a bearish week, what are we expecting a bearish week to have? Of course we're expecting a body. Of course we're expecting a wick on either side. Okay, if we look at any candlestick, they're gonna have this. They're gonna have that wick. They're gonna have the body. They're gonna have the down close wick. Right? Now, if we're looking at this as a bearish week, okay, like this, what are we expecting to happen in order for this distribution to occur? And the first thing is a sweep of liquidity. Now, again, if we're expecting a bearish week, we're expecting the week to close down here, okay, in this region. Not close up here. That'll be a bullish week. So Monday and Tuesday for me, for my testing, and what I've been taught in Woke and things like that, is that Monday and Tuesday, you tend to get, if we're expecting a bearish week, you tend to get the high of the week being put in on Monday and Tuesday, right? So you get the high put in. Then on Wednesday and Thursday, you get the body, the distribution, okay? And then on Friday, you tend to get that retracement back into the range because, again, the weekly wick has to be put in, and that tends to be on Friday at the bottom, okay? So what we're looking at, okay, is this is a weekly profile. The high gets put in on Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, okay? Beautiful hand, right, Luca? The body gets put in on Wednesday and Thursday with the distribution in play. And then the Friday gives us that retracement, okay? Retrace, right? Beautiful handwriting. It's almost unreadable, okay? So in essence, what we're looking at is what we call an open high, close low. That is what we're looking at, an open high, close low, right? So if we're looking at, if we take, like, let's fucking look at this week, for example. This week, beautiful. Monday and Tuesday created the high. Wednesday and Thursday created the distribution. Friday distributed a little bit more and then closed in slightly. Okay. And the same goes for a bullish week, right? If we're looking for Monday and Tuesday to be the low, Wednesday and Thursday to be that distribution, and then Friday to close back in. Okay, and that is kind of how weekly profiles work with my trading. So if I'm looking at all of that, right, Monday I'm looking for that high of the week. Okay. Now, the high week for me, what I'm looking for is for price to trade back into the IRL of the daily swing. Remember, we're disregarding all this because we have shifted on GU, which means we've shifted on EU because of this SMT has been put in place. So what I'm looking for, right, is for price to trade higher on Monday and Tuesday into the daily IRL to then trade lower. So even though my higher time frame is bearish, for an intraday purposes, it's bullish. Now, as well as that, to support this, on Friday we've closed inside this daily fair value gap and we haven't inversed it. Now, this fair value gap to me doesn't mean much because we are bearish and this is a bullish fair value gap, but it's going to rebalance. In my trading, I think that we're going to use this on a Monday and Tuesday to rebalance this daily swing. Okay, so this fair value gap still serves some sort of purpose to me, even though we are bearish and it's going to fail at some point. We are going to inverse this. So what other traders tend to call it is a smart money trap, just like this. But which it is, okay, it is. But again, it's still serving some sort of purpose to me at the minute. Now we have this swing, we have this bearish fair value gap, and I'm expecting price to trade into the discount. So coming into the morning, coming into the day, this is what you're here for. What am I looking for? First off, we get a previous week low sweep, as well as previous day low sweep inside my daily fair value gap. So straight away, those two things support my bullish bias of the day. Okay, we've swept previous week low, we swept previous day low. We did not have SMT at the time. Well, we didn't have SMT at all, and GU looks like it's in a really good spot. What the fuck? But even though we didn't have the SMT, we set it on both pairs. I'm looking for price to trade thingy, and so did DXY. We swept it, and DXY for me was inside this daily gap. We swept this liquidity, and I'm looking for the exact same thing. It's the daily gap that EU's in, and I'm looking for that rebalance on DXY to trade back into IRL, to trade back to ERL. So once we've had that previous week low sweep and the previous day low sweep, go on the 4 hour, what am I fucking seeing? I'm seeing pricing needing to rebalance this shit. Okay? And so again, we're supporting this bullish bias, right? Now, on the hourly, it didn't tell me much down here. Asia just kind of fucking went up, went down, went up, went down, went up, went down, didn't do much. 7 a.m. Frankfurt session opens, boom, massive Drake to the upside. So what we've created now is this change of character on the hourly, inside of a fair value gap, a daily fair value gap, with a previous week low and previous day low sweep for context. Okay. Again, this is what we're looking for a bullish day. Okay, we're looking for these confirmations. So now once we've had this change of character and we have created over here this order block for price to potentially come back into, I'll call it demand for now, right? My bias is even more clear, and this is why I took a trade on Monday. I don't take trades on Mondays. The last 12 Mondays I've taken a trade, I've lost all 12. Okay, however, when bias is this clear and it's following aligned with weekly profiles, I'm okay to take the risk, and I didn't really care if I lost this trade, to be honest, right? Because everything was there for this trade. There were cons, of course, because there's always going to be cons of a trade. What Big Elliot said inside work, he said that like if you're thinking about your trade on like a weighing scale, okay, do the pros outweigh the cons? If they do, you got to take it and it follows your plan. If they don't, the cons outweigh the pros, then of course you don't take it. And it's very simple. So with all the pros there, how do I get in this move? How do I get this fucking distribution, right? So we create this big ass fair value gap on the hourly during Frankfurt. 8 a.m. create the down kind of close candle to create that imbalance, and then I was looking for that 9 a.m. fucking distribution, which is we had this beautiful candle, and I'll explain why this happened in a minute, but that is all I was looking for. So once price closed this hourly fair value gap, okay, I was simply looking at this 30-minute swing. Now the reason I wasn't looking at the premium and discount of the hourly swing, which is all the way down here, which was valid, is because of how bullish price was. Price was so bullish with clear displacement, with a clear 30-minute fair value gap for price to trade into. So I wasn't what I wouldn't want to see is price to trade any lower than this. Okay. Yes, price could come down here, and if it came this low without giving entry confirmation, then of course I'd wait for the hourly swing discount to be tagged, the hourly EQ. But when it was at this high, I'm still looking for that move, okay? Especially if we're reacting from it and I get confirmation from it. It's worth taking. So once we have that, okay, unfilled 15-minute gap right there. Price taps in beautifully right there. Now, on the 5-minute, what do we have? We have this SMT put in with GU. GU failed to sweep this low, and EU did sweep the low. And then I wasn't going to enter this trade just yet. Okay, normally with me, I would enter on a 3-minute change of state, which we kind of got right here. Now, this change of state isn't the best looking change of state. I was more so looking at this one. Because it's, again, there's cons to this trade. One, it's a Monday. I don't trade Monday. So if I'm going to take a trade on Monday, I've got to make sure, I'm doing everything I can for this trade to be the highest probability. Secondly, there's still cons, right? We didn't actually tap the 30-minute EQ. And when this shit happens, when you're 0.5 to a pip away of the EQ, price tends to manipulate that shit and we'll tap it. It's still genuinely we'll sometimes do this and then go up. Okay, so with that being said, there were cons with this position. The other con, GU didn't tap the fucking hourly gap that it created, or the 30-minute gap. Sorry, it didn't tap that shit. Nor did it tap the 15-minute. Right. So there are a lot of cons as well. DXY had equal highs over here. So, yes, there's cons to this trade. Yes, it wasn't the best trade I've ever taken. We didn't even tap the EQ on DXY of the 15-minute. But when I get confirmation like this, I'm going to take the fucking trade. Because for me, I have so many accounts. that I don't really care. Like, I've got a couple more other funded accounts, and challenges I don't care about phase ones, so it made more sense to take, right, than not to take. So what I waited for instead of this 3-minute was this added 3-minute change of state just here, right? This added one, and that aligned with my 5-minute. So what did we get? We got the 5-minute change of state, and on the 3-minute we get that clean cut order block creation just here. We retest the order block, I enter that bitch, and then we fly to TP. Now you're probably thinking, Luca, where were your targets? Why did you only hold to a 1 to 2? You could have held to this height. You could have held it to this Untapped Asia height. You could have held. I could have, but like I said, I kind of knew that. But with us missing the EQ, right? EQ was here. With us missing the EQ, price is probably going to want to come back down and tap that shit, right? Especially with GU having this imbalance over here. Okay, so once we get this, I top tick this bitch, closed up here, passed my phase 1, and that's all I needed. I didn't need anything else than a pass on a phase 1, and $750 on a Monday for me on an account that's already up $700, or $500, whatever it was. It's fine. I'll take the payout. I'd rather take the payout than try and squeeze an extra $150 just for price to reverse. And of course, it did reverse, right? Like I said, there were cons to this position, and price is going to fill those cons. Those cons are big cons, right? They're not the biggest of cons. They weren't enough for me to not take the trade, but they're still cons nevertheless. Now, there was a beautiful setup, and the actual distribution did happen during London at New York. Now, I could have taken this setup. I did look, and we did get the change of state, but there were a couple cons, right? And these cons didn't really outweigh the pro. They did outweigh the pros. First off, this low that was put in here. Typically, I would like for price to do this, then this, and then that. First off, because these are like, it's 11.57 low. Didn't like that. Secondly, I don't trade Mondays, right? So me taking a W over here is an added W. Why would I then take my first trade, win the trade, and then be like, fuck it, let's go in for more and get more money on a day that I don't typically like to trade, because it's a lot of manipulation on Mondays, especially when there's no news and things like that. So I didn't take it, but it was clean, and you could have taken it, and any other day maybe I would have taken it, but I probably would have waited for this 5-minute change of state and not trade this 3-minute because of this. I mean, it looked ugly on the 1 minute, I remember. Yeah, it just didn't look very impulsive, and again, we're just building trendline liquidity to later reduce. So yeah, that was the trade of the day. Okay, it matched my rules very nicely. The reason I took the trade on a Monday, which I don't normally do, is because bias was so fucking clear. Like, it lined up so well with my weekly profiles. We're inside this daily fair value gap. We've had the hourly shift. It was just beautiful. It's like everything I'd want, on a trade. We even shifted on the 4-hour. Like, it was. Did we shift on the 4-hour at the time? No, we didn't. No. That's a lie. Because that was the shift on the 4-hour right there. Okay. It was just beautiful. Okay. So I had to take it. It followed my rules. So yeah, there's that, right? And that is the trade of the day. Like I said, it secured me a nice payout. And did secure me a phase 1 pass. And it's only a Monday. So yeah, that is the trade, like I said, of the day. Now, if I'm looking further into tomorrow, what could I expect, right? More source feed up. There's two outcomes I'm kind of eyeing up. First outcome is price trades lower, okay, to then trade higher. That's the first outcome, but I don't see much reason for price to do that, okay, unless we want to take out this liquidity. The second thing I see is Asia doesn't do much. We get an accumulation, manipulation, and then a distribution to these highs. Or the third thing I see, Asia just trades higher, and we catch continuation longs. I will not be looking to sell tomorrow because I think it's too early on in the week to sell. I think price will want to fill this imbalance. And realistically, is Asia going to move? I mean, it could move 30 pips actually. It could, very much could. And yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad place to sell, but I just think it's too early on in the week. We're also going to, create this daily fucking fair value gap in 3 hours. So whether or not that holds a bit of resistance for Asia and then we trade higher and inverse it tomorrow, that could definitely be a play. There's loads of things that could happen, but the first thing is that I'd want to be seeing price trade higher, and higher. Okay, I want to be seeing price come into these premium areas. It might not, because price was very bearish last week, so it might not need to come into the premium, but at least into this. This is my main daily kind of fair value gap that I'll be looking at for price to trade into. This one right here, because like I said, this is the one that makes most sense to me. To trade away from. I don't like it, like I also said, I also don't see this fucking other one that price is about to create. Sorry, I'm so concentrated right now. I don't see this holding up and trading lower. It could, but I don't see it. Looking at GU's in a beautiful spot, like really good spot to sell. Yeah, but if I'm looking at what I'd want from GU to sell, I'd want to see this previous day high get swept. If I'm being honest, okay. Looking for that previous day high, and then potentially look at those sells. I wouldn't look to buy further than the previous day high sweep. If I'm being honest, okay, it doesn't make sense to do that. Because we filled all the amounts, isn't it? Yeah. So maybe sells tomorrow. We shall see. DXY, like I said, previous day low sweep would be beautiful down here. But I still think it's early to sell, to buy on DXY. I still want to see it come lower into these discounted areas, but at least into this 4-hour mitigated gap, somewhere around here, and then look to trade higher. Okay, so that is a trade recap. That is my analysis for the rest of the week. I will see you guys later. Peace.